Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany if we've never met before, and welcome to my first reading vlog. Now, I want to get right into Head Case by Onley James because I'm obsessed with this serial killing vigilante family that exacts justice. This one follows Asa. This is going to be the first time that he's separated from his twin, which I'm sure is going to be problematic for them, but I suspect it's going to pave a way for Zane to enter the chat. The synopsis says that he's a small-time crime blogger, so I need to know how Asa ends up with somebody that's a threat to the family, and I'm interested to see how the mystery in this one unfolds. I cannot wait. That's the first one we're picking up. I also want to get to Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I know nothing about this, and because this is the cover-to-cover book club pick, I will aim to hit broad strokes with this. And what I mean by that is I will only talk about the themes, elements that moved me without getting granular. Okay, because I don't want to spoil anything before book club, and I want to think about the reader that's out there like me who wants to go in blind. Next, I'm for sure going to get to Annie's Song by Katherine Anderson. The Rake Appreciation Society Live is on February 10th, and I cannot wait to tab up my physical copy of this book. Every time I reread a book that I enjoyed, I'm always like in awe of how the same story reads differently every time in relation to my life experience. My tabbing process is very time sensitive because I like to clock the movements that I find poignant because I think it notes my personal growth. If I still feel challenged by the same elements, if I'm remaining firmly planted on a particular stance. And this is a very good book for that because the first time around, her parents were very difficult for me. I suspect that won't change. It just might evolve. And his relationship with his brother that does assault Annie in the beginning of this book, it's really linked to his like inner wound, and I want to pay attention to that. I cannot make any promises in terms of just hitting broad strokes with this one because of the feelings that it elicits. But I will update on any of the books that I will inevitably pick up as we go along here in this reading log. And I'm just ready to get started. Okay, I'm in the parking lot at work where everyone else is on vacation, so I apologize in advance for any noise you may hear. But so far, I am loving the chase, literally, between them in the steam due to the primal kink, okay, and the figurative one. Because Zane is just now coming live to the fact that he enjoys being Asa's prey. He puts himself in Asa's crosshairs to gain access to his family for a story. And so far, Asa has discovered through the steam that he enjoys Zane's non-performative fear and desire, his bratty banter, and his protests under the guise of a moral compass. But really, Zane hates himself for loving Asa's interest because it problematizes his stance on murder. And yet, I just love how she's able to capture the awe of a moment you know, that like heightened realization that Asa is in fact interested in him despite all of his insecurities. She notes the smells, the weight of Asa's gaze, that heady elation of how being bound can feel like freedom. Because this does turn into a captor-captive situation. I mean, we're dealing with legacy-making research in an operation. We've got to protect that. But Zane enjoys Asa taking away his choice so that he doesn't have to make sense of his need. And I'm dying over those moments. She does keep hinting at like how feral Asa can get without Avi, but I have yet to see it. I know that she's trying to set up the fact that Zane will be the remedy, but I'm hoping that's coming soon. The mystery has begun, okay? And I like that they're working together because Zane has like a personal tie to what they're investigating. And I think that's going to be the best way for him to understand what the Mulvaneys actually do. And them working together will also give them a vehicle to build their emotional connection. Because the steam is there, honey. Okay? The steam is there. And the intensity and the heat is just ascending. So I'm loving that. I will probably finish this at work and jump right into the next one. So I'll be back with another update. But chef's kiss with this one so far. Okay, I secured the bag at work and I finished head case. I'm gonna rate it a 4.5. Yeah. Because I really think that this is the best mystery plot of the entire series, in my opinion. Unhinged being a close second. But this read like a procedural television show. One clue fed right into the next. It was compelling. It had a digital horror feel, and she wrapped it up like a French braid. Okay, it was tight. And I love to see it because that was my complaint with Moonstruck, the book that precedes this one. And in the end of that one, it didn't really bother me that much because I loved the romance. But here, I really appreciated the fact that as they're chasing down clues, Asa gets to see the upbringing that Zane endured and the root for all of his insecurities. So it made Asa's acts of care after punishing Steam all the more sweet and gratifying. I will say, I wish there was more Asa and Avi in this one. I know that they're supposed to be separated. We get a moment, but I just really wanted something that spoke to the emotional and energetic balance between them now that Zane is in the mix. That's all I'm saying. It's fine. It's fine. It just serves as another reminder that we can have it all. We just can't have it all at the same time. So I can live with it. Also, in terms of the romance, there's something that occurs that felt like the next logical step for Noah and Adam. Like I felt that it would make sense. Here it surprised me. I mean, arguably, rapid escalation does characterize their romance, so it's fitting, but I wanted to feel it, if you know what I mean. There were a couple things in this book, but ultimately, like, I was thoroughly entertained. I was living. I enjoyed it, and now I need Avi's book. I also finished Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I'm rating this a 4. And again, I'm not going to get granular. But had this been heavier on the romance as opposed to leaning towards women's fiction, it would have been a 5 for me because it gutted me. Reading is personal, and there are elements of the heroine's soul sickness that I intrinsically relate to. Her debilitating regret, her yearn to atone for a past mistake that has permanent and far-reaching consequences. And oh my gosh, just that one pivotal moment that changes the entire trajectory of her life. Like, I could relate to all of those themes, and the writing telegraphed them beautifully. The structure was sound, and the reasons for why the romance is forbidden were believable, and it was really a challenging complication that forced the hero to grow. She absolutely gutted me. Not like a Sierra Simone gutting. I don't know why my brain just went there. But like, when I think of Sierra Simone, her words are like a scalpel to me. They're surgical. And like, the ache lingers long after. This was more of like a quick shank. Like, I know my mind is weird, but that's what it felt like. It felt like a, like a quick job. And that's the best way I could describe it. I can't say any more without spoiling it. What I will say is that I will be picking up Colleen Hoover again. I need recs of hers that lean heavier on the romance, but I will be picking her up. I'm excited to discuss this for book club. And now I want to read Not My Type by Evie Mitchell. I'm scrolling through YouTube and I see that Bree from In Love and Words is gonna have Evie Mitchell on a live stream. So of course I was influenced. I'm ready to start that series now. I also can't believe that I missed the fact that Onley James has a prison series, and I need to get in the know about that real quick. So I will be reading Endangered Species. All I know is that like it's a stepbrother romance. That's all I need to know. And we'll see if I read that like before or after Annie's song. Public shaming if my nails are not finished before my next video. I don't even feel like I deserve to hold up a book with these hands. They're so bad. I'm sorry. I will be back with the next update. Oh my God. So I finished Not My Type, and I feel so dumb. How did I not know that the hero is a rigger? There's a literal pun on the cover in rope. But I loved that surprise for me. And I absolutely loved the heroine. She's a sexologist with a podcast that's centered around making sex accessible, whether that be emotionally or physically. And she just reminded me of like a self-actualized pixie with her pink hair, witty banter, and hard-hitting observations that she sort of delivers in a soft and probing way. And when a listener has a question for her that she can't quite answer without doing further research, that leads her to Jay, since bondage is his expertise. And I loved how she caught him off guard from the very beginning. It really illustrates that her demeanor and her appearance is counter to what people assume. And I also appreciated the fact that he has studied and honed the art of shibari. I think it was really responsible and fitting for it to be depicted as a craft that takes years to master and do safely. And the fact that he teaches a class on making shibari accessible not only was clever and served as like an entry point if you're coming in with no knowledge, like the heroine. It just felt like one of those key in the lock type situations because it completely opens the door for them. I love when that happens. What are the odds that he has the knowledge to accommodate her while using open communication? I was just here for it. And my favorite part about this, because I cannot speak to the chronic illness rep, was how she advocated for herself. I mean, I was learning along with him. She is clear about what she needs from him and what the reality will be while being with her. And I even enjoyed, there's a moment with all of her confidence, advocating for herself can be very vulnerable at times. And I wanted this to be longer to get the full breadth of that. I also think that he was very willing to learn and remained teachable, which is why his behavior in the third act conflict, taking ownership of a false characterization, seemed counter to who he was. And there was also something confusing within the third act conflict for me in terms of vernacular, and one element I really didn't enjoy. However, I realize we all don't respond to emotional trauma the same way, so I just went with it. I rated this a 4. I'm absolutely continuing on with the series because her friends were absolutely hilarious. And with all of my issues with the third act, I mean, she truly was a self-actualized queen and held space for him, so that turned it around and saved it for me. And like I said, I'm here for it. Like, I know the second one's out. I think the third one's coming out. I still need to watch the live show. I wanted to read the book first. So I'm excited. I think for sure I'm going to pick up Endangered Species next and then read Annie's Song, because I want to tab up that book and I want to do that at home. And tomorrow I want to try out like a new like local bookstore for me. I'm hoping it can be like a new reading location. My requirements are endless Wi-Fi, comfy seating. I don't want to feel like I'm overstaying my welcome by being there for a few hours, and I hope it's kind of quiet. A lot of things, but I've already found one location, so I hope this is the next. And I'll see you when I have another update. Bye. writer's block. I loved the decor in there. It was so unique and eclectic. I was a little sad because they don't have a dedicated romance section. I really had to get in there and dig, but she ordered me whatever I wanted, so I'm going to be back. I love that they have book clubs and readings and signings. Very excited about that. I also started Endangered Species, and I am very interested in this prison series because the setting is adding high stakes to the romance. This starts out by showcasing their stepbrother's dynamic and how Cyrus, being the older one, really served as Nikki's protector in their neglectful and abusive upbringing. Something pivotal happens and Cyrus takes the blame. And 20 years later, little Nikki is this savvy keyboard pianist, my favorite. You know, the type that can like write code like music? That's him. And now he's being framed and imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit as a setup. He's trying to figure out who done it, why, and what for. And they're also trying to get him killed because they place him in the same prison and in the same cell with his stepbrother Cyrus that's been in there the last 20 years because of him. And they're dealing with forced proximity because they're cellmates, prison politics, and they're doing like the opposite of fake dating because the Warren and the higher ups threw Nikki in there because they expect Cyrus to want his revenge. And Cyrus doesn't blame Nikki for what happened when they are children. So they have to pretend that he's exacting revenge and harming him when they're really enjoying it. So far, I'm liking this and how, you know, they're really in a situation where they're not in control. So I don't know how they're going to swing this. I don't know how he's going to solve this mystery from within there. I like that this is connected to her Elite Protection series. I've read a few within those. And so, like, they'll get the job done, but they're going to have to survive while being in there and hide the fact that they are, in fact, enjoying this. And there are a lot of elements going on. I'm enjoying it so far, and I will be back with an update. Okay, I finished Endangered Species, and I feel like the romance crescendoed for me because from the very beginning of this book, they have an instant connection that I believe was dishonest. It wasn't enough for me that they were raised as stepbrothers and bonded through the trauma of that upbringing, because there's 20 years that they have to catch up on. And although I was living for their like fake revenge setup, the internal conflicts between them were non-existent. And I usually like to see that after the work has been done to establish a foundation for the relationship. And I can't ignore that just because I was living in a lot of their moments. And I was, but steps were absolutely skipped. And I didn't see the notes that I like to be present sound off until the plot unfolded and the external conflicts around them started to mount up. Because the shine here is the plot. The mystery, even when it's solved, doesn't give them the solution to their problems. And those answers are complicated and hard won. I enjoyed the meditations on the differing schools of thought when it comes to the big business of incarceration. I loved that. And their HEA does have an impact on the society around them. And I felt it. I just wish that from the beginning, that Cyrus felt something other than acceptance upon first seeing Nikki again. It would have given me some friction, which begets work, and it would have fed those fake scenes of steam that ended up turning into the real thing. It would have given me another element to chew on. But I'll quit rewriting and just say that this is a 3. I'm still gonna pick up the rest of the series, and I will leave it at that. And I'm gonna go into like a mini rant, separate but related to what I was just talking about, but separate. In general, for me personally, if a book is less than 200 pages, it's not enough to just tell me that they're in love and shower me with steam. And I'm a woman who likes spice. In fact, it's a general requirement up in here and to make it onto these shelves. But I need the heat to ascend with their emotional connection. I need the steam to chart their level of trust or even the lack of it. But it has to telegraph that, because if it doesn't, I'm not convinced that it couldn't just be anyone else. And when I spend more than 200 pages with a couple, I believe that I deserve nice things. I just do. And I had to get that out. Rant over, on to the next. I also finished Annie's Song by Catherine Anderson. And if you don't know, this is about a woman with a misunderstood disability that leads to what I would characterize as her neglect and abuse, as opposed to miscare. I'll put it that way. But this, ooh, my headphones falling out. But this childlike, sweet soul is taken advantage of in the beginning of this book and assaulted. And the brother of her attacker, Alex, does the honorable thing and marries her. And he is honorable. What he does is honorable. But this time around, I really saw his offer of marriage as a way to atone for the monster that he created, which is his brother, and as a way to assuage his guilt. I did. And because I read it that way, it made where he ends up all the more beautiful. I appreciated Alex's arc so much more this time around because I was able to see that he forgave himself and is able to showcase an act of love in the third act that's undiluted by himself and his baggage. And there's a pivotal moment in this book between him and his brother that I believe is the plot point for that growth. It's not like I saw Alex as like a one-dimensional character. It's the fact that he shines. I mean, he is that hero. He has his hang-ups, but he shoves them to the side, brings Annie into his home, cares for her, and pays attention to her long enough so that he can discern the kind of care that she needs. And when you place that juxtaposed to how her parents dealt with her, because I refuse to call that care, it makes him shine all the more because she blossoms into a woman. And when I paid attention to him more this time around, I realized that her need of his care really feeds him, because when he gave it to his brother misused it. Sorry, my headphones are rolling out. Yeah, it's in his nature to be caring. When he gave it to his brother, he misused it. And I think Annie, because she was a good steward of all that he had to offer of himself, he was able to see in a pivotal moment, in my opinion, that he could no longer take ownership for the person that his brother had become. And that allows him to extend to Annie in the most loving and respectful way, because it gives her autonomy and it allows her to stand as a woman in her own right. Even though he makes a hasty decision in the third act that arguably is unilateral, it was just so endearing to me because it showcased the growth in his personhood and the growth in his love for her. And I just find it interesting that I was so hyper-focused on him and the arc for his character, where the first time around I was really focused on Annie and her relationship with her parents. I really enjoyed this. Again, it's a 5-star read for me. I'm excited for all of my book clubs this month. And I feel like I've been rambling for a long time, so I'm gonna close this vlog out right here. I want to thank you for joining me. I hope I see you in the next one. And deuces. Bye.